A rare one-on-one interview with the Democrat who wants to be Pennsylvania's next senator. John Fetterman, currently the lieutenant governor, used closed captioning to help his auditory processing during a remarkable interview with NBC News. Fetterman says he does not believe the stroke he suffered in May will in any way undermine his ability to serve in the Senate, but he also acknowledged the lingering effects.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
Everything about it has changed, especially early after the stroke. The ability to really understand exactly what I'm being heard but it gets much, much better where I take in a lot. But to be precise, I use captioning. So that's really the major challenge.
CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta is with us for more. Sanjay, we are so lucky to have you. You're a brain surgeon. You understand this space better than just about anybody out there watching. Explain what you saw when you watched that interview, the questions or the answers it gave you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you really get insight into how a stroke can affect a particular part of the brain and how people can recover from that as well. Let me just show you here. And again, this is really interesting, but this is a brain model. Left side of the brain is typically where people have speech sort of reside in their brains. And speech means your ability to speak and write, but also to understand spoken and written words. It's all referred to as speech. What you see is he seems to have difficulty hearing spoken word and processing that. So as a result, that's located here in this part of the brain. But back here is where you have your visual part of your brain. He seems to be able to read the words, understand them, and then respond. So he's sort of compensating, if you will, John. Really fascinating to see by reading this, in closed captioning versus hearing it. But he responds quickly, and I think that was really important. Sometimes he might mash up a word or two. That's how he described it. But what I think is so important, John, is that when we think about strokes, a lot of times people commingle what is a functional deficit, auditory hearing processing problem, with cognition. He does not appear to have a problem with cognition. He's responding quickly. He supposedly took a couple of tests where he performed well on those tests. We haven't seen the results of that. We haven't seen any of these medical records. But overall, you could hear his fluency of speech and things like that. So not to commingle cognition with functional deficit that people do recover from in the form of this stroke.
So in terms of his ability to serve in the United States Senate, can he understand a tough national security issue before he casts a vote? Can he understand the complexities of a major health care bill if he had to cast a vote? Could he understand the major complexities of a tax bill if he had to conduct a vote? Can he read it as opposed to getting a briefing from the staff? Is that kind of the issue here?
I think so. I think that's it. He does not appear to have a problem with understanding, comprehension. It is a processing issue that seems to be the case. And again, this is based on looking at these interviews. We have not seen his medical records, but that's really what it does look like, a processing issue versus a comprehension issue. So yeah, it might need to be presented differently, written down versus spoken, but you could recover in terms of actually being able to improve auditory processing as well. He's 5 months out from his stroke. Typically, people will have recovery, sort of 6 months to 18 months, they can even continue to recover. So whatever deficits he has now in terms of his ability to auditory process may improve as well. I don't want to minimize how significant an event this was. Sounds like it was a significant event. They had to pull a blood clot out of one of the blood vessels in his brain. But people do recover from these as well, and it looks like that's exactly what he's doing.
We are more than lucky to have you for your context and experience. Dr. Gupta, thank you very much. Let's bring the conversation back in to the reporters who are around the table. Number one, Fetterman, watching the processing of this interview today, trying to tweet to shape the conversation. He says, recovering from a stroke in public isn't easy, but in January, I'm going to be much better, and Dr. Oz will still be a fraud. Clearly, they woke up this morning, they're watching the media attention on this issue, and he decided that essentially to stress there, it isn't easy. Everybody's watching me while I recover from this horrific challenge.
No, absolutely, trying to almost, and he mentioned it yesterday, also trying to appeal to the empathy of voters here, too, when it comes to his recovery. But what also should be noted here, and the takeaway is, when you have a void of information and you don't fill it as the candidate that's running, other people will. Other people will. There's a reason that this is at the top of the news. Obviously, it was a crucial event as well, and his health was at stake. But also the interviewer mentioned yesterday multiple times, You know, it's been 6 months since you saw a letter from his doctors. You know, he was quite defensive as well about releasing his health records. There's a void of information.
So let's listen to that part, because it would be, I think, a better conversation for the Fetterman campaign if Dr. Gupta were here and he had been to a briefing with the doctors, or at least they had sent him all the records, and a brain surgeon gets to look at them and come on and say, I have looked at them in A, B, C, and D, and go through it. Instead, as you note, Mr. Fetterman is a bit defensive.
We've asked for your medical records. We've asked to have a conversation with someone from your medical team, to interview your physician. You've declined those requests. Why?
Well, I feel like we have been very transparent in a lot of different ways. When our doctor has already given a letter saying that I'm able to serve and to be running.
Don't voters deserve to know your status now?
Being in front of thousands and thousands of people and having interviews and getting around all across Pennsylvania, that gives everybody and the voters decide, you know, if they think that it's really the issue.
I mean, look, it raises a lot of questions. I think the risk is that it makes it seem like they're hiding something, right? That if something came out in these records, it would be a political problem, and therefore they would prefer that the public not see them. I mean, that is kind of the central challenge. And, you know, this is, I think, where the way that he is conducting his campaign, you know, is going to affect the outcome of the election. And this is something that the Oz team has been able to really take advantage of. Now, that said, just to go back to what we were talking about a second ago, you know, I went through a brain event myself, and I cannot imagine having to have had to recover from that in public on everyone's television screens. It is definitely challenging, and it really takes pretty close to 100% of your energy. So this is somebody who's doing two very hard things at the same time, and it really is up to voters to decide, hey, are we okay with that?
Right, right. I think they're asking a lot of, they're basically asking Pennsylvania voters to trust us. Like, look at me on the campaign trail, trust the doctor's letter that we gave to you in June. And I think particularly in a very partisan environment, that's fine for many voters in Pennsylvania, definitely Democratic voters. But I still think obviously voters are owed full transparency. And I think when he does appear a little bit defensive about the lack of actual records being made public, I think that's a tough challenge for them.
It is a tougher challenge. I appreciate your candor and your courage as well.